Welcome everyone to our 50,000 subscriber special charity Q&A. I want to start off, and I'm sure this will not be the last time today I will be saying this, but I want to start off with a huge thank you to all of you watching now, to all of you that have watched since day one in those very early days where we were doing real budget transfer news and talks about Pascal Wehrlein maybe going to Ferrari. We had talks about Williams, Paul di Resta potentially returning. All a load of nonsense, really. In that first year, we also spoke about Romain Grosjean maybe going to Ferrari. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but through all that nonsense, I like to think we've gotten better and better and better. And this year, I think we've all had crazy years, pretty bizarre years in the circumstances, and Formula One, the world of Formula One, shut down. But you guys kept on going. You kept on showing your love. You kept on showing your support. That encouraged me to do more content, try and learn and do better than ever. And this year, it's been our best year. 50,000, a ridiculous achievement, and it's really you guys that have made it all possible. We've had some incredible moments on this channel, yes, milestones, but also in my life I've been able to experience things like working with the F1 Word. A huge achievement in my life was doing a live stream with the F1 Word, but also with Alex Zaffro, someone who I looked up to hugely in my childhood, and just being able to do a live stream talking with him about Formula E as well with Sean, who's become one of my great friends on YouTube. It really was a magical moment, and doing little things like that is thanks to you guys. Again, I don't want to spend too long being all mushy and soppy, you know, that's not really my style, but yes, thank you so much. And for 50,000, yeah, I wanted to try and do something a little bit different and a little bit special, and in my own unique way, my own F1E Dan weird way, I wanted to give back something a little bit different, and I thought the perfect way to do that was through a charity Q&A. I had no clue how well this would be, whether it was something that no one would be interested in, a few hundred of you, 10 of you, no idea. It's something I've toyed with in the past. I've toyed with doing live streams, but sadly my internet at the moment and equipment nowhere near up to the capabilities. If you saw some of our live streams through lockdown over on Twitch, you will know 720p was the absolute maximum we were getting out of those. We were trying in the past to do some kind of live stream, monthly charity stream, but I just didn't feel the quality was going to be good enough. So what an opportunity, 50,000 to try it, to give it a go, to give back to you guys, raise some money for a cause that is so close to my heart in Rowcroft Hospice, a charity that looks after elderly people generally, but it more focuses on end-of-life care, looking at, well, trying to treat and look after families and patients with cancer, with life-changing and life-threatening illnesses. So to be able to raise way over the amount we initially set of £500 is ridiculous, and every single one of you, I think 58 people we're up to that have donated. Thank you all so much. For those that have even just watched this video, all the ads and revenue from this very video will be going to the cause. It all adds up, and it's very little way. Those who retweeted, even if you just like this video, that helps so much. And honestly, thank you for us all getting to this stage. And just a quick note, it will, I think, be floating around on the screen at some stages. If you do decide to donate, donations end Sunday, and every single person that does donate is thrown into a raffle to win a half-scale Lewis Hamilton limited edition 2020 helmet. I'm a bit gutted I don't get to keep it myself, but it's my little way of giving back to you guys, and that will also be decided once final donations are thrown in on Sunday. That's my 5-minute monologue. I think that'll do, but I am setting this up as a YouTube premiere. We couldn't get the live stream quite working how I initially planned a few weeks ago. But what I'd like to do is treat this as a live stream. I'm going to not do any cuts. I'm not going to do any takes. Yes, it's slightly lazy, but also I think it just gives you a better idea of connecting with each other. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But we'll go with that. It just makes it feel a little bit more special for the occasion. We can go through your donations. All your names are going to be up on screen. Should be an absolute lovely time. But if you're not really fussed about that, don't worry. For you, this is a treat because this is An hour, I'm hoping it's an hour. You can probably see it's a little bit more than an hour, but it's going to be your opportunity to watch a ridiculously long weekly mailbox with so many questions. I don't know how I'm quite going to cope. I've got a drink with me just in case. That probably will be needed. If the front door goes, if the telephone goes, we might have to just do a quick pause and replay. But we're all set up, all ready to go. So we're 5 minutes in. Let's stop wasting time and let's start off with our first question. I've not really prepared a lot of answers for these questions to make, again, this is just as raw and as fun as possible, really. But our first question comes from @Waychol. Waychol? I think it's Rachel over on Twitter. How many Formula One races have you been to? Which was your favourite? Love from East London. Thank you for your donation, first of all. I want to generally go from the questions in the order of when people submitted them, so first to last. And Waychol was the 5th person to ask a question, but I thought this was a fun one to start with. How many races have I been to, and what was my favourite? Those of you that have been subscribed for donkey's years, it seems now, will probably know I have been to 3 Formula 1 Grand Prix and 1 Formula E race. 3 Formula 1. The most recent was last season, 2019 Silverstone Grand Prix, British Grand Prix, 2017 British Grand Prix. This year, I had planned to go to Monza, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I think there's a couple of questions talking about that. But the first ever race I went to, Belgium 2015. I know if you didn't know I'd went to that race, but you knew I was a Grosjean fan, you probably think I'm lying, but what an incredible event. What an incredible weekend. And again, I think there's a few more questions asking me about my favourite ever Grand Prix I've visited. And I will have to break it down in a little bit more detail later on, but Spa 2015. First of all, Spa. What a place. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Belgium to visit Spa-Francorchamps, do it. Even if it's not for Formula One, a magical place. It really is so special, and I'd love to go back in the future. It wasn't the most straightforward trip, and I will certainly talk about that a little bit later on, and that's a story certainly to stick with. But the race was awesome. Watching Grosjean and the whole situation with Lotus that weekend, with the bailiff showing up. Would Lotus race? Would they not race? I'm a huge Lotus fan. I still am. That's why I'm a Grosjean fan, is that's kind of where it came from, him being within that Lotus family for so long. So to show up that weekend, not having a clue if they're racing, not racing, and for Grosjean to have the Formula One race of his career, score that podium, madness. Again, there's a little bit more to that story we'll discuss a little bit later on, but that was certainly an incredible moment. But also, last year when I went to Rome for Formula E, that was almost as special, not quite as much, because Spa was my first ever experience of motor racing. Here where I live in Devon, there's nothing. There is absolutely zero chance. I've never been to Donington, Brands Hatch, anything like that. Never, ever. I'd love to in the future, potentially, but the Formula E race I went to last year as well. Mitch Evans, one of my favourites, winning that day, Stoffel Van Dorn getting his first podium, but actually being in the paddock, seeing the garages, being able to touch the cars, speak to the drivers, that really was incredible as well. And again, being able to speak to Stoffel, Felipe Massa as well, that ridiculous. And thank you to everyone who made that trip possible. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up that question. My favourite, certainly, Spa 2015. And thank you, Waychol, for your donation. Our first donation came from Anonymous. So I don't know how much you donated. I don't know what your name is, but I will answer your question, and I know you have donated. It just doesn't pop up on screen. So thank you, Anonymous. Do you think Formula One should adopt a similar idea to MotoGP with the long lap penalty, since 5-second penalties do little to impact the long term when corner cutting to overtake, for example? Thank you. I don't watch a lot of MotoGP, so I don't really know what the long lap idea is. But what I will say, and what I can answer, is the 5-second penalty rule. It's something we saw last time out in Sochi. I think it worked okay for Formula One. I think last season when they started to introduce the black and white flag, I think this year they've done it in Styria, they did it, and also, I want to say Monza, where they've been given drivers multiple chances and then the penalty. I think that's bang on. I think that's perfect. Grosjean and Giovinazzi are the two that spring to mind from earlier in the year that were right on the bubble of getting a 5-second penalty thanks to too many corner cuts. It's going to sound ridiculous. It works in the Formula 1 game. And I don't really mind them in Formula 1. I think it's much better than... I'm not too sure if MotoGP does this. The long lap may just be a timed thing. I'm not really quite too sure. But you've got in rally car where they do that dummy lap. I don't know if it's a similar kind of thing where you've got to take a slightly different route. I think for a casual fan, for someone just getting into Formula 1, 5 second, it's very easy to understand. And especially this year, first race of the season, Lando Norris hounding down Lewis Hamilton who got that penalty. Now they're putting the graphics up on the screen. I think it's much, much better. So personally, I don't really have much of an issue with it. But again, thank you for your question. Thank you for your donation. Question number 3 comes from S. Pionage. My question is, if you could go back in time 10 years and give your past self any advice, what would it be about racing, YouTube or anything? Love the vids. Sorry I didn't donate much. Do not worry. Every donation, massively appreciated. If I went back 10 years in time, I'd be 11. So, to be honest, I'd be grinding out Call of Duty on that Black Ops 1 hype, getting ready for Modern Warfare 3. God, what advice? It's really hard because I'm right at a stage now where I'm not really sure what's going to be going on in the future, where my future path is going to take me, and I'm kind of right on that bubble in my final couple of years of university. But I think what I would say is try the best to be you. Listen to yourself more than listen to others. I mean, again, I don't have much life experience in the great wide world just yet, but what I have seen is that people can often talk. People can talk nicely to you, criticisms, constructive criticisms, whatever. But as long as you make yourself happy and what you do is you enjoy, I think that's the most important. Whether that's from a YouTube side of things, I know I made some awful videos, some awful content. But if I didn't start off those first couple of YouTube channels, that we'll talk about a little bit later on, if I didn't learn what works, what doesn't work, how to make thumbnails, how to edit, yes, they were terrible quality. Yes, you know, there were times where I cringed to death when people played them out loud at school. Not nice experiences, but I think that just builds character. And now I am on the bubble of hopefully making it into a career I want. What I really would stress is, if you do enjoy something, even if it's something really, really silly, like me with Formula 1, I always enjoyed talking about Formula 1, pretending to commentate on Formula 1 over the TV when I was a kid. Even the games as well, we won't go down that rabbit hole too much today. Just try it. Try and pursue a career in that area. That's one of the things now I look back and think, oh, I wish I'd have not listened to people saying, oh, media studies isn't the best, A-level to do. You don't want to do that. You want to do biology. I don't like biology. I listened to that kind of, rationale at the time. And I look back at it now and think, well, I would be helped out so much in the career path I want to go down now. Yes, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, but I knew I loved that and I would have enjoyed that. And certainly if you don't look at those routes, you're never going to be able to get into something you enjoy and want to do. It's really hard to explain, but in short, I picked accountancy for a degree. I hate accountancy. I never should have done that. Sorry, buddies that are listening that were part of that degree that I'm still friends with now. But I never should have picked that. I've finally managed to wiggle away from that and more down a marketing and business route, which is far more me and certainly will help me if I want to go more into a career within Formula 1. But I really should have listened to myself more. And I know I'm rambling a little bit here on this one, but I think as long as you stay true to yourself, listen to yourself more than others, I think you can't go too wrong. I'm going to be told that's terrible advice now, but that's what I'll go with. Again, 10 years ago, all I'd have been caring about is making sure I get to max prestige and getting the gold MSMC on on Black Ops. Anyway, question number 4 I think we're up to now. Logan Wade, thank you so much for your £10 donation. First of all, huge congratulations on 50k. Thank you, Logan. Here's to many more. Fingers crossed. What's your take on Lando Norris and where do you see his career in 5 to 10 years. Lando is incredible for Formula One. A lot of people, rightly so, will point that Lewis Hamilton is brilliant for our sport, bringing that mainstream audience into, I suppose, a perspective of a Formula One, and also raising key issues within our sport and elsewhere in the world. Lando Norris, I think, I don't want to say isn't too far off Lewis Hamilton and disrespect Hamilton, but I think Lando Norris brings so much to Formula One that, once again, I think, I don't want to say the older generation, but maybe it is really, the older generation maybe don't appreciate, because what Lando Norris brings is just so unique with his audience for the younger generation. Something Formula One has struggled with so much is bringing in that younger generation. I know from my analytics, even though I try to tailor my content in a way to people that might have never seen Formula One, I know a lot of you are older than me, slightly older than me, my age group, but there's not a lot of people that are, I don't know, between the ages of 15 to 20. That's probably my lowest demographic, which I always find quite strange. So Norris, since he's come into Formula One, that has changed dramatically. And I think with Drive to Survive, Norris can play off these memes, can play off these little Norrisisms, if you want to call it that. And I certainly hope he has a ridiculously long career in Formula One. He's quick. He's done so much better than I expected him to do in his first 2 seasons. This year has been one of the drivers of the year. Is he world champion level? I think it's too early to tell. But certainly, if he can continue the development he's had from this or last year to this year, he's going to be on the right track. It will come down to how McLaren are going to fare at the end of next season in 2021, heading into 2022. But I certainly think he's been a real breath of fresh air for Formula One, and I hope he stays in F1 for a very long time. Ian Kinney says, congrats for 50 subscribers. Here's to 50k more. Best of luck, mate. Thank you for the $50 donation. No question from Ian, but once again, we've thrown into the raffle. We answered the question from Wei Scholl. So up next, I don't know if this is a mistype, but M at Bell is what we've gone with. So I don't know if it's at M Bell or anyway. Great work. Thank you. First, what is your favourite animal? Hang on. I hadn't read this question. Where has this come from, M at Bell? Right, let's start again. Great work. First, what is your favourite animal? And what animal would you choose to shapeshift into if you had the ability, and why? Puma and sharp-shinned hawk for me. Thank you for the $5 donation, Bell. Right. Unexpected question number 1, I think we've got here. My favourite animal... Man, I always used to love a polar bear. Tigers are pretty awesome. You know what? This has thrown me off massively. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to go with, if I could shapeshift into any animal, into a panda bear. A panda bear, they're just awesome. Like, the fact they just sit around doing nothing is pretty much what I do now already. I can see a panda bear just chilling with a stick and bamboo, watching F1, chilling on the box with the lads. That's me anyway. What a stupid question. Thank you for your question. Hawk is a sick idea because you can fly. Anything that can fly, great answer. But I'm going to go with a panda bear, Mr. Bell. So thank you. We'll move swiftly on because I'm going to get lost otherwise. Kaikul Mollier comes in with a £10 donation. Thank you. Great work, Dan. In your opinion, which race was Jenson Button's best drive? Congrats on 50k. Thank you, dude. Thank you for the Jenson Button question. Greatest drive? Canada 2011. Surely. I remember actually, that's the only race since 2007, we'll say, I haven't watched live. The only one. And it was because it was too late here in the UK. Was it Sky then? I don't think it was Sky just yet. Because it was Brundle and Coulthard, wasn't it? But it was too late. So I had to watch it once I'd come back from school the next day. I didn't know the result because no one at school liked F1, except a couple of them. And honestly, watching that was really quite incredible. Other drives spring to mind. Hungary 2006 is my first ever Formula 1 memory. I do remember that one, screaming and jumping around the TV. More modern times. Again, I think that 2011 one really does spring to mind. I was going to try and name one with McLaren Honda, but I think even Jensen will agree. Probably not best to talk about that era, but yeah, 2011 Canada. It's the cliche one, but certainly a fantastic drive. Even though he got his penalties and made mistakes, the comeback at the end, magic. Probably shouldn't forget those penalties though. Thank you for your donation. Esh Visuals, thank you for the $10 donation. Do you think that Gasly, if he continues to impress, could eventually join Russell at Mercedes after Lewis and Bottas retire? Thank you for your question and donation. I'm stuck on this one. Because when you sent me this question, I would have maybe agreed with you. Gasly's kind of not got many routes. I think Red Bull, it's going to take... if he doesn't get promoted at the end of this year after he's won a Grand Prix, what else has he got to do to get that promotion? Ferrari, I think they're pretty much full. Renault, I thought was a great option, but that means another year at AlphaTauri. Mercedes could be a chance. If they promote Russell, if Hamilton retires, maybe they will do a complete switcheroo and get 2 drivers. But what's changed since you sent this question in is Honda. Leaving Red Bull, and I think Max Verstappen and George Russell, it could be a very likely lineup in the future for Mercedes. And yet, when you sent this question 6 days ago, I never would have thought Max Verstappen would have been in the mix. So, yeah, certainly I think Gasly would be a great option. I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot to prove, and he's a star of the future. But at the moment, he's really piggy in the middle in the drivers' market. I'd love to see him go to a top team. I really like Pierre. He's slowly becoming one of my favourites. But again, yeah, it's just so difficult. We've seen Hulkenberg drop out of a seat. Perez may leave at the end of this year. It's one of those things, we need more teams in Formula 1, and sadly, it would be one of those things where Gasly might never get a chance at a top seat. Thank you for your question, Esh Visuals. Up next, Jordan Burrows. Thank you so much for the £10 donation. Jordan asks, will Lewis Hamilton retire in the same year he wins a championship? How many titles do you think he will win? Congrats on the milestone, mate. Can't wait for the 1 million subscriber special. Thanks, dude. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. But the question, I think you might be bang on here. It's one that's so hard to read what Lewis Hamilton's going to do in the future. I think of all the drivers, he's the hardest to place because I don't see him going to another team. Maybe Aston Martin, but unlikely. Ferrari is one that always gets thrown around, but again, I think why ruin a legacy of always winning, always being powered by Mercedes? And it looks like at the moment, if he's going to go anywhere, he's set up that Extreme E team. And hey, a lot of you won't like this, but I think it's more likely he would move to Mercedes Formula E than move to another rival Formula 1 team. I don't know what you guys think about that. But will he retire the same year he wins a championship? I think he might. He might stay on one more year and do it a little bit like Schumacher did, didn't he? Had those couple of seasons at the end where Alonso finally took him over. He lost that bit of domination and decided to walk away. Maybe Hamilton will do that. He was very vocal about Rosberg doing it, leaving at the end of 2016, but I think that was more Hamilton wanting to prove a point, and I think things will change a little bit when he decides to retire. But maybe once he hits 8, I think he will start really considering retirement. He knows he's got an opportunity here to get 7. 100% if he gets 7, he's going to be able to get 8. 9, 10, that's the gamble. Are Mercedes going to be on that level in 2022? How much excitement does that new car bring to Hamilton? I think there's going to be something there. I think he's going to want to fight. He's going to want to push for it. So I think 2022 will be a season where if he doesn't win, he will leave. If he does win, he also might leave. So I'm aiming for 2022. How many titles do I think he'll win? I think 9. I'll go for 9. 8 or 9, which sounds ridiculous. We spoke about this the other day. 7 titles just sounds mad. 9, ridiculous. Thank you, Jordan, for your question. Up next, Tyler Morrish. Thank you for the £5 donation, dude. What are your aspirations for your channel / career for the future? Congrats on 50k. Thank you, dude. Aspirations for the future. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm quite, I hate the word content, but I'm really happy with 50,000. And if we stayed at 50,000 subscribers, stayed with the viewership we had now, that's brilliant. It really is. For all the hard work I put in with previous channels that got nowhere, it's quite surreal being at this stage. But of course it would be nice to keep growing on YouTube. I think first and foremost, now we've hit 50,000, I want to focus more on upgrading content. Making content as good as we can. I'm so happy with the previews this year. They have, I like to feel, gone up massively in content. I'd like to do the same with the race reviews, which I feel we've gone up, but not quite as much as the preview. So I want to work on that a little bit. And certainly when you look at all of the race weekend content we had last year compared to this year, it's been a massive step up. And some of that last year, I look back now and it just looks terrible. I'd like to start a podcast. I've said this for a long, long time. Almost there. But I really want to make that something special. There's no point throwing out something that's the same as all the other 101 podcasts on Formula One, on the YouTubes, on Spotify, on iTunes. I really want to make that special and unique and different, really. I'm close to something, and that is, I suppose, the next real step I'm working on. Also this year, there were lots of plans to go to Formula E events. Now, I'm accredited with the FIA and Formula E. That never came to fruition thanks to COVID. So there's certainly things I think we're close to making that next step. In terms of my career, dude, I've got no clue. I'm very much going with the flow. What an awful thing to say. But I'm happy where I am. Obviously, I'm at university at the moment. Last couple of years, looking at doing teacher training, maybe doing some kind of, career in teaching, in primary school teaching. That's something I've always had my eye on. I've always wanted to do. But equally, I'd love to be a part of Formula One. However big, however small a part that is. So I'm open to a lot of things at the moment. And I'm just seeing where life takes me. What a terrible bit of career advice. But that's currently my situation. Career aspirations, no clue. Channel aspirations, I think just continuing to improve that quality. Make it so when people come and new subscribers join, they think maybe along the lines more of it's a business, it's a company, not just me. Maybe that's aiming too high. I don't know. That's my rough ideas, and I don't want to give away too much, just in case a few of the competition are listening. But thank you for your question, Tyler. James W comes in with a £50 donation. Thank you so much. And no question as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed in the raffle for all of you, but thank you so much for that one, James. Ernesto Aviles donated twice. It comes up on the here with the same question. So, 2 $5 donations. If I can do maths, that's $10. So thank you, Ernesto, from El Salvador as well, in South America. Hi, Dan. Thank you for all the previews, quali, and race reviews. What's your opinion on Daniel Ricciardo? Could he be the first driver ahead of Lando Norris? All love from El Salvador at NetoXX10. Danny Rick. I love him. I love him. I've had questions on the mailbox before about if I could have, I don't know, or I should have looked at a lot of these questions beforehand, but I've had a lot of questions in the mailbox before, and we've answered them about my dream Formula One team, whether that's current grid, past drivers, whatever. I always put Daniel Ricciardo in the team. Is he the greatest ever in terms of speed? Probably not. Is he one of the best overtakers I've ever seen? 100%. Is he one of the best personalities Formula One has ever had? 100%. And what he brings to Formula One, to each team he's part of, really is something special. Such a lovable guy, likeable guy, a quick guy. I think he is gonna do great things with McLaren. I think there's going to be a brilliant relationship with him and Lando Norris. Will he be the number one driver? I think it'll play out a little bit like it does this season, and I suppose last year as well, where it's more of a blend. There's not really a number one and number two. You can kind of make up your own idea depending on performance. A great example of that, I suppose, is Max Verstappen and Ricciardo. When they were at Red Bull, the lines between 1 and 2 were really blurred. And when you consider historically, Red Bull are one of those teams where you have a number one and number two. I think Ricciardo is one of those drivers that put him up against anyone, he's going to be able to do a job. I'd love him to win a world championship. I'd love him to win races at McLaren. I think there's a real possibility there. Thank you to Angela once again for a £50 donation. The comment is not really aimed towards me. It's aimed towards Rowcroft, the charity we're raising funds for. Thank you all so much for the hard work and dedication from your charity. Your support to our family was incredible. We will never forget. Thank you, Angela, for your donation. DAD. Very proud of you, Dan. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Dad. Cringe. Mayo is glue. Our next one up next. Thank you for the $18 US donation. Hello. I wanted to say a little thank you for the excellent content you provide and share. Thank you. Would I go as far as excellent? Probably not, but that really does mean a lot. So thank you, Mayo is glue. Strange name though. I will go with that. Anyway, I look forward to seeing your videos whenever you upload. What pushes you to be the best version of yourself? Why didn't I read these questions? These are so good. What pushes me to be the best version of myself? I think knowing what I would like to do in the future, in a sense, I want to be a part of Formula One. It's a difficult path to go down, and already we've answered questions today that I'm not sure. I'd maybe want to go into teaching. I'm a little bit here, there, and everywhere. But the fact I know Formula One is so competitive, and in a dream world, that's something I would like to do. You only get one chance in life to go for these things. That really does spur me on. You know, I've said again already today, but in the past, I come from an area which is lovely. I love it here in Devon. I would realistically never want to leave. But at the same time, there are no opportunities here in any kind of career I would like to go down. There's no media jobs. There's very little journalistic jobs. There's no sport. There's a couple of water sports, but even football down here. We've got Exeter City, Plymouth, and Torquay United, and none of those clubs are anywhere near the level I kind of aspire to be in, at least in company with. And you can just forget motorsport down here. That doesn't exist whatsoever. So I think the idea that if I ever want a career, or at least, you know, a role in that, I really do have to push myself, try and be as unique as possible, as good as possible, and keep learning is really what does motivate me. So thank you for that question. I really wasn't expecting that. But yeah, hopefully that, I don't think that will spur any of you lot on, but if it does, fingers crossed. But yeah, just aiming as high as possible, and then if you don't quite reach it, you can still hopefully achieve things in your career and in your life. So yeah, thank you for your question. Ernesto's back on again with that second donation. It's the same comment, the same question, so thank you so much, Ernesto, for your $10 donation. Murray Wright comes in with a £5 donation. Thank you, dude. Hi, Dan. Really good work with the videos. We may know by the time you make a Q&A, but is there any chance KTM might join Red Bull as an engine supplier? Don't forget they already work together in MotoGP. I didn't know that. I really, it's one of those ones I dabble here, there and everywhere with, but it's not something I watch week in, week out, MotoGP. It looks like Mugen. I keep calling them Mogan, but I think it's Mugen. I'm going to stick with Mogan for today. Sorry if that bugs people. Looks like that's the route we're going to be going down for the future of Honda. They're going to give their IP over to Mugen, over to Red Bull. Red Bull are going to work with Mugen, still, it's such a hard word to say, still remaining a works team, if you will. And Red Bull seem very calm about the whole situation. They're being quiet about Renault. There's no playing nicey to Renault at the moment. So I think that's the route they're going to go down. They may go down the route with KTM with a similar idea with purchasing Honda's IP of the engine. I'm not quite sure on the size of KTM, but I suppose if they're making power units for MotoGP, certainly a possibility. Something I hadn't considered, and actually I'm going to look into that a little bit more because I really like that idea. I'm just not a huge petrol head on the MotoGP side of things. Up next in the donations, it's the man himself, Aldas. Thank you, dude, for your £5 donation. And thank you as well for your support on the channel, man. I mean, both of us started in the same year. Very similar kind of times. And I think it's quite nice that we're kind of growing together, if you will. So thank you, dude, for supporting our 50k subscriber Q&A. On with the question, though. Firstly, congratulations for 50,000 subscribers, Dan. This is long overdue, but I'm so happy to see you reach this milestone. Thank you, dude. My question is simple but spicy. Man, that's the kind of questions I want to be seeing. Name your top 10... This isn't simple. Dude, Name your top 10 F1 drivers of all time. This is going to have to be no order. I'm going to have to get a pen as well, so I note down on making sure I'm getting 10, because I know what you guys are like. There's the slap of the pen. Right. On the list, Hamilton, Schumacher, Senna, Prost, Lauda, Clark, Fangio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3 more. I did well there, Vettel. There's one for you. Alonso. 2 more. I'm sorry, I've not mentioned Jackie Stewart. I've not mentioned Sterling Moss. I've not mentioned Ascari. I've not mentioned Graham Hill. I've not mentioned PK. I think I need to look more into PK. Someone who's not spoken a lot about. I think that was more about his temper sometimes. Villeneuve as well. I'm going to have to stray away from a lot of those because I never witnessed them. And I've not really looked into a lot of them. Jim Clark is someone who I looked into so much, being a Lotus fan. So yeah, 2 more. We will go with Jackie Stewart. And finally, Romain Grosjean. Thank you, Aldas, for your question. Anonymous donates £5, so apologies I can't read out who you are or your question, but everyone who did stay anonymous, thank you all for your donations. Cole is up next with a $10 US donation. Thank you, Cole. Congrats. What race/moment was it that made Button your fave? Can you see a specific driver or prospect getting to that level of you? Or level for you, sorry. Slight miscommunication here from myself, but Button wasn't my favourite. Jenson Button was my granddad's favourite. And I don't really know why. Well, I know roughly why. It's because he was a British driver. That's why. And my granddad was very patriotic. In the army. Loved Formula 1. Jenson, I think, was the obvious choice, really. So I can't really say what moment made Button my favourite, because Button, though I love Jenson, it was never my favourite. I was always Lotus, so was kind of against Jenson for a couple of years. But what I will say is my favourite Jenson Button moment was, I did quite like it when he returned in 2017, but certainly that first race victory in 2016, I was going to say, 2006 in Hungary. Can you see any current driver getting to that level? I think so. I think there's a lot of drivers on that Jenson Button level where they're good enough to win a world championship, but they've got to be in that right car at the right time. I'm looking at drivers like Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris. I've got to be careful here. Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen, Leclerc, Grosjean. I'm certainly missing people. Checo Perez, Hulkenberg. People are screaming at me. Pierre Gasly. Oh, there's time constraint. Other drivers is Bottas as well. We'll put in Bottas. I think there's a lot of drivers that are World Championship material, but it's right place, right time, which happens so often in Formula One. Cade, thank you so much for your $5 donation. Congrats on the 50k. This is my first year of watching Formula One, and your channel has been instrumental in my current Formula One addiction. Thank you. That means a lot. I try and make my content, as accessible for veterans, for those that have never seen this sport. So thank you, Cade. If Grosjean loses his seat, I don't know if I want to answer this question anymore. If Grosjean loses his seat, who would be your favourite active Formula One driver and why? Hopefully he doesn't lose his seat. It's looking likely that he might. Who will be my favourite? I'm not too sure. It might take a couple of years. I've been a Grosjean fan for so long now, since 2012. It's going to take a bit of time. Even when he left Lotus, actually, I was a bit hurt by that, even though the team left F1. I was a bit hurt by that. And that first year at Haas, I wasn't a massive Grosjean fan. It was a little bit of a time where I was liking Van Dorn. I really liked Carlos Sainz at Toro Rosso. I did eventually go back to Grosjean and support him, I think, even more than I ever did at Lotus, because he ended up getting so much hate at Haas. However, if he leaves, initially some of my favourites, Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly, I really like those two. I was a massive Hubert fan. It would have been Antoine Hubert, following him through the junior ranks. So to kind of carry that through a little bit, and Esteban Ocon, I quite like him as well. But Gasly, the journey he's been on, incredible. Charles Leclerc, similarly, I resonate with those two quite a bit. I like Norris, I like Russell, Carlos Sainz, I will continue to support. But yeah, there's no one driver really. Max Verstappen continues to just surprise me every single year in Formula One. Hamilton continues to smash it. So yeah, and also Alonso returning, that's just going to be ridiculous. Seb Vettel, can't wait to see what he does at Aston Martin. I think Stroll gets a lot of hate. I haven't mentioned him today. But at the moment, there's no direct replacement for Romain Grosjean. Thank you for your question, Caden, and thank you for your words as well. We've then got 2 anonymous donations totaling £7 together there, a 5 and a 2. We've got Ferrari 309 with an anonymous, well, not anonymous, but no question donation, also with £2. But then we get Josh Huxell, $10 donation. Thank you, dude. Congrats on 50k. I have a kind of multi-part question. Ooh. And it is, who do you think is the best driver to never reach? And then, okay, I see. And then we got 3 parts. So who is the best driver, first of all, to never win a world championship, then to never win a race, then to never get on the podium? Never win a world championship. Or the one that springs to mind, actually, there's going to be some... Oh, Stirling Moss would be a great example. Stirling Moss is going to be my answer, but that's not the one that instantly springs to mind. The one that instantly springs to mind was Juan Pablo Montoya, actually. I remember bits and bobs of watching Juan Pablo, and he was just a bit of a beast. He really was. And maybe that comes from the fact that I remember as a kid having the 2002 season review, and also I had the 2002 game. He was just ridiculous. I know that Williams' car was good, but considering how little time he spent in the sport, if he'd have spent a little bit longer, if he'd have stayed with McLaren, I think he would have been champion. I mentioned Stirling Moss would have been champion if he hadn't have been so nice, is pretty much how it goes. Other drivers, maybe more modern, that have never had a title. Cool. Again, I'm going to get shouted out. Massa, pre his accident, was getting to a level that was ridiculously good, matching Lewis Hamilton pretty much in 2008. Who else have we got? More modern. Maybe, I mean, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, technically, but do they count because they can still win one? Perez, coming to the end of his career. I think he's a driver, put him in the right car, would be in the mix. Valtteri Bottas as well, not quite on that level. But yeah, Montoya and Stirling Moss are the two that are jumping out at me right away. I'm sure there's going to be so many more So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. B, who is the best driver to never win a race? I mean, again, Grosjean comes to mind, I guess. Sergio Perez, I think, is someone, again, who's of the level and has never really had the car underneath him, really. I'm sure there's loads I'm forgetting on never won a race. And I'm sure there's lots of drivers in the past that I would just, assume that he did win a race. What a name that's springing to mind. See, this is why I should have done preparation. Derek Warwick? Did he ever win? I don't think Martin Brundle ever won a race, though I don't know how highly you want to rate Martin Brundle, but yeah, I'll go with Sergio Perez as one of the best to never win a race. And to get on the podium, it's got to be the Hulk. Got to be the Hulkmeister. No doubt about it. Maybe George Russell as well. You could throw into that mix. And I think we can all agree. Jules Bianchi was going to be a driver, certainly on the podium, and again, probably would have won races and been a bit of a mega star. Orange Cake, thank you for the donation. Congrats on 50k. Where do Formula 2 drivers that don't make it to Formula 1 go to? What are their alternatives? Well, there's a few. Some of them they used to go to DTM. Some of them drop out of motorsports altogether. A lot go to endurance cars. Perfect example is Louis Delatraz, who's in endurance cars at the moment. He does LMP2, I think it is, this year at Le Mans, and takes part in that series as well. Formula E is one that seems to be growing more and more in popularity, but seats are getting, a lot more hot in Formula E, and you've got to really prove yourself in Formula 2 now to get a seat in Formula E. Nick De Vries, Sergio Sette Camara are the two last year from Formula 2 that got up to Formula E. I suppose Van Dorn had a brief spell in Formula 1, but Formula 2 as it was to Formula E. But honestly, it's getting really difficult. And a lot of them, some go to Japanese Super Formula as well, but a lot of them, that's why they stay in Formula 2, because there really aren't those opportunities elsewhere. But thank you for your question. A little bit unique, a little bit different. Up next, a question from Sean. £5 donation. As a new Formula 1 fan, I have learnt so much from your videos. Thank you, dude. By far the best F1 creator out there. I really appreciate that. I disagree, but thank you. It's also great to see you supporting such a great and valid cause. Thank you, dude. Thanks and keep up the good work. So no questions from Sean, but thank you for your donation. And yeah, thank you so much for your kind words, dude. Anonymous drops a £5. Thank you so much for your donation. Sheila T, congrats on 50k, Dan. Incredible work and an amazing cause. My question, which track and GP would you most like to visit? The plan was this year to go to Monza for the first time. I'd saved up a little bit of money. Didn't go ahead. I am gutted. Absolutely gutted. I missed an absolute barnstormer of a Grand Prix. That would have been able to rival witnessing Grosjean and Lotus's last podium. Being able to see Gasly's first win, and that just ridiculous Grand Prix. But hey, it wasn't safe to go. It wasn't right to go. And hopefully I can go in the future. So Monza's up there. Nürburgring, just any track in Germany would be really, really cool. What else springs to mind? I think this is going to be one that people don't like, but Abu Dhabi as a venue, as going to the final race of the season, incredible. Do I disagree, or at least do I agree with a lot of things they do there, in human rights violations and things like that? Certainly not. So would I want to go to that country? Probably not, along with Bahrain and a few others. USA, Circuit of the Americas, right up there, and Montreal as well. So Monza at the top. One I haven't mentioned, actually, and one I don't want to say not too fond of going to, but I suppose a bit mixed about going to, is Monaco. I love Monaco. I'm a supporter of Monaco. I'm a defender of Monaco and the Monaco Grand Prix. But it's a lot of money. And the experience you get is completely different. And if you have been, let me know in the comments. But it seems more of a, you go, you You sit at a part of the track which you can't really see a fat lot. The experience, it seems very closed in, and I suppose that's a very different kind of vibe and something that you only experience once you go. A little bit like Singapore. I'd love to go to Singapore and watch Formula One. So yeah, not near the top of my list, Monaco, but yeah, I think my top 3 now I've remembered would be Monza, Singapore, and Circuit of the Americas. June drops a £20 donation. Thank you. Love the channel. X, thank you very much. Knocker Noakes, £20 donation. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Anonymous, £5. Thank you. Mohammed Irfan, a regular on the weekly mailbox, so I know, even though it's M Irfan, I know it's Mohammed Irfan. So thank you, dude, for your £5 donation. Is the future of Formula One bleak? Crikey, is it bleak? With more engine manufacturers moving towards carbon-free emission goal. This is one that I suppose depends on your perspective on, electric power units, carbon-free emissions, carbon-neutral teams, and a carbon-neutral sport. It's something I don't care about. I mean, I love Formula E. Is the main reason I love Formula E the fact that it's electric? No. Do I care that it's electric? No. It's one of those things I really struggle sometimes to understand why people dislike Formula E. Because if you just look at it on paper, I know there's more to it and I'm sure we could have some fantastic debates, but when people say they don't like it because it's electric, you're saying you don't like a sport because it's electric that moves the car. That it's electricity that powers it instead of engine and petrol. I find it strange. So I don't care if Formula One goes electric. I really couldn't care less. It's not something that bothers me now. Moving from V10s, V8s, V6, it's just something that doesn't bother me. And I know to some people it really does. And I can get it in the sense that that's the reason you love Formula One. You love pushing technology. You love the sound. You love the atmosphere. I get that. It's just not something that really bothers me. I to be honest, care more about helmet design and livery design rather than I get to talking about the noise of the engine and what powers the car. Engineering is just not my forte. It's not something I'm particularly interested in. I'm more of someone that enjoys the racing side of things. So it doesn't help with manufacturers leaving Formula One. And yeah, so from that side of things, it probably a little bit alarming. And I think this Honda news will push Formula One to change a little bit. But I think it's fine. I think it's in safe hands. Stefano Domenicali coming in. I think it'll be fine. €10 donation from Matt. Thank you, Matt, for your donation. Congrats on 50k. Love the positive energy of your videos and enthusiasm for the sport. Have you ever participated in any form of racing yourself, or do you just enjoy observing more? I mean, a lot of it is the fact there's nothing here. Is what it comes down to. We've got very basic go-karts, and I'm not talking about go-karts that, a lot of these F1 drivers grew up with, that kind of thing. I'm talking almost as if you buy from Toys R Us. Rest in peace, Toys R Us. That style of go-kart. So no, not really. Funny enough, next week, I know, timing impeccable. Next week I'm going proper go-karting for the first time in my life. Am I looking forward to it? Yes. Am I scared? Am I going to be rubbish? Yes. So I would love to try it. I love Formula One games. League racing I haven't done for a few years, so I've tried that, and I used to be all right. Won a few leagues, did all right, but it's something I've not done recently, and I don't know how good I am at go-karting. I might hate it. So you'll have to bear with me for a week for that one, Matt, but thank you for your question. Mike, £5 donation. Thank you. Congrats on 50k, Dan. What a great cause to help out. Thank you, Mike. I'm just going to have a quick swig of the drink. Lovely. And we can crack on. And up next, as someone is doing some drilling in the background, so enjoy that if you can hear it. If not, happy days. Callum Rochester, £10 donation. Thank you, dude. Very good idea. Thank you. My question is, do you think the price cap will actually work or do nothing to the sport the way it is? The budget cap, the price cap, whatever you want to call it, I think it's fantastic for Formula One. It's something I was against. Not against the idea of it in principle. I just believed, and I kind of still do to a degree, believe it's going to be virtually impossible to police. You look at Haas. That's the example I often use. They get a lot of their parts through Dallara, a lot of their parts through Ferrari, and yes, Haas don't often reach the is it 250 million euros, the budget cap, but they often don't reach the maximum of the cap. A lot of that is because they don't spend any money on R&D. They use a middleman in Dallara, a middleman in Ferrari, and I just wonder whether that's fair. Dallara doing the R&D, should those costs count in Haas's budget? Ferrari's R&D, should that cost in Haas's budget? All little things like that are going to be really difficult for the FIA to track, and that side of things I was always a little bit 50-50 about. The idea is bringing the field closer, making closer racing, and if they can make it work, I do think it'll be a positive for the sport. And I think, though right now it's quite a big talking point, I think it's one of those things where 2, 3, 4 years down the line, we'll kind of forget it exists, and we'll only really talk about it when we say about new teams coming into the sport, rather than, Mercedes could go even quicker if there wasn't a budget cap and that kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I do think it's a good idea. Thank you for your donation, Callum. Samuel Renelay donates $5. Thank you, Samuel. Congratulations on 50k, mate. My question is, do you believe the rumours of Red Bull buying Honda's engine program and assets using the rebranded Mugen as a likely scenario? I'd love it. We spoke about this earlier. I do believe it. They're going to want to stay as a works team. They're going to want to keep building on this engine that really in the last 2 or 3 years has been getting better and better and better. It's frustrating Honda are leaving. I can understand why they are leaving. But if they can sell their IP, sell their assets, let Red Bull and Mugen have them, I think that's a fantastic way forward. So yes, I do believe the rumours at this current moment. ENT, £20 donation. Thank you. Fantastic organisation. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Ian. Sean Fitzmaurice, a $30 donation. It says A, so I'm not quite sure where this is from. So thank you, Sean. What inspired you to start a YouTube channel? I think this is difficult. It's a long story. This is my 3rd YouTube channel, really. I did one when I was pretty young, making do I do it? We'll pop it up on screen. Let's do it. Making little animated shorts that were terrible. Really, really bad. I did that. I did a few very basic gaming videos, stop motion, had a little play. I think we got up to about 13 subscribers. So that's where we started. Then moved on to a gaming channel with my brother a few years later when I was about 14, 13. You're very basic little kid making a YouTube video, having no idea what they're doing. And It got quite popular, but the issue with it was that it got popular for stuff I didn't want to do. I really wanted to do Formula 1 content. I really wanted to do league racing, real life Formula 1 content, but it wasn't that content that was getting me recognition and people wanted to see on that channel. So whilst I still, continued to pump out content on that channel and it was doing relatively well and it was relatively successful, it's not what I wanted to do. So just before I started university, I decided to make an F1 channel. Had no clue where it would go, but I just wanted to be at a stage where rather than making content other people wanted me to make, I was making content I wanted to make. And that was the best decision I ever made. And it's kind of why earlier I said don't listen to other people in that kind of life advice, because as long as you're making yourself happy, that is the key part of it. And that was my inspiration really to start this channel all the way back in the day. I think it's just something I've always liked doing. It is making videos and doing silly little things on my laptop, on my phone or whatever. So that was pretty much just a natural thing. I never really watched YouTube before I made YouTube videos. That sounds ridiculous, but I think I just made them and it was somewhere to put them rather than hoping people would watch them. So yeah, just really this one, just to spout nonsense about Formula 1 really, rather than doing, I hate to say it, Minecraft and a little bit of Fortnite as well. But hey, we'll move on swiftly. Neil Roberts, the donation hasn't popped up, and actually in between that, there's another anonymous £13 donation, so thank you. I believe at the time, that took us up to the 500, so thank you so much. Neil Roberts asks, as Honda owns Suzuka, do you think their withdrawal from Formula 1 will result in the Japanese Grand Prix leaving? If so, where would it go, or would it be discontinued? I don't really think it will have much effect. We always had races at Suzuka, despite the fact Honda had left Formula 1 in between 2008, wasn't it? End of 2008, 2009, all the way up to when Honda returned in 2015. Always had races at Japan, always at Suzuka. Yes, we had a Japanese driver in Kobayashi, so that helped bring in a little bit of market, but such a historic race, historic venue, there's so much demand for that race, I don't think it will have much bearing on whether we go there or not. And actually, I don't think Honda withdrawing from Formula 1 and Red Bull, I don't think it's Honda angry at Formula 1 in any way. I think it's more their understanding from a board perspective and a company perspective. They want to be looking to the future. They want to be investing in technologies they can use for their main market, road automotive vehicles. So for them, spending all this money on Formula 1, no matter how successful they are, they want to be focusing on their main market. So I don't think they're actually angry at Formula 1, and I think still that revenue they will get from the Japanese Grand Prix is a nice little bit in the pocket, so I think it will be staying. If it went, I would imagine it would be Fuji that we'd go to, that we last went to in 2007, I believe it is, which is also a top-notch circuit. Tapasaya Maringati is what I'll go with. You all know I'm bad with pronunciations, but I'm pretty happy with that one. The content is top-notch. Thank you, dude. Keep up the good work, buddy. What is the most incredible moment for you at a Formula 1 track you've been to? What is the order of rating for drivers in the last 10 years? That's a lot of drivers to go through. And what I will say is I did do a video at the end of last year, maybe even being beginning of this year, but anyway, over that Christmas-winter period, going through my top 20 drivers of the last decade, so the last 10 years. So that's there. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Hamilton was at the top, Vettel was at the top, Rosberg was at the top, the three champions, I remember that. Grosjean made it in. There was quite a few, but I'll leave that because that could go on for a while. But what I do want to mention is your first one. What was the most incredible moment? And I said earlier on I wanted to just talk about this a little bit more because I knew this question was coming up. I did see this one. Belgium 2015. Now, you all know the story of Grosjean on that day, that the bailiff showed up that weekend. Would Lotus race? Wouldn't they race? They had no money. Renault luckily came in at the last moment, bailed the team out, bought the team out for the next season, but they were able to race. Grosjean banged in an incredible qualifying. I think it was 4th on the grid, but was slapped with a 5-second penalty, or 5-place penalty in the Grand Prix. Smashed it up to 4th place. 2 laps to go. Vettel's tyre explodes and he claims the podium. That was incredible. But the extra bit, the extra details I alluded to earlier was, oh man, I went to that race on crutches. I had dislocated my knee a few weeks before, and bear in mind I'd never been to an event before like this. I'd only been abroad twice before this race. So deciding to dislocate my knee, getting it caught between my bed and my bedside table and getting up a little bit too quick was not the best decision I've ever made. And going to Spa on crutches, very hilly, very awkward, very painful. But I tell you what, that whole weekend, not only the result, but the fact that I can say, you know, the first ever F1 race I went to, I had to climb Eau Rouge on crutches, is a story I absolutely love saying. And it was difficult. I had to use... I couldn't actually go up Eau Rouge because it was too steep. And on the crutches, I would fall backwards. So I had to actually go through the service bit through the first couple of times until I got used to it, which is part of the old track, which was really cool, and not many people would go around that way. But yeah, I did eventually climb Eau Rouge on crutches. Crazy weekend. It really, really was. And it's why I'd love to go back to Spa and not do it on crutches. It would make it a little bit more special. And because I was on crutches, I wasn't quick enough to go and see Grosjean on the podium, which isn't great. But hey, it was an amazing weekend, and yeah, an incredible moment that whole weekend. But yeah, certainly I will never forget. Thank you, Frank Azui, for the €10 donation. No question, but again, you'll be entered into the raffle later on. KT, a £10 donation. Massive congratulations on 50,000. What an achievement. Loving the content. Thank you, KT. Thinking back over all the years you've been watching Formula One, what is the one race that comes to mind first, and why? I mean, obviously Spa 2015, I haven't stopped banging on about all day long. I tell you what comes to mind is 2013 Australia. 2013 Australia. It's a long time ago. It's a race that not a lot happens, but it was the race Kimi Raikkonen won for Lotus. He started 7th on the grid. He did a 2-stop when everyone did a 3-stop, I believe it was. And again, it's not really a classic, but it's one that I always remember really fondly. I remember marching into school the next day and telling all my friends that didn't care in the slightest about Formula One, telling them, how excited I was. Lotus, my team, my boys, they're back in it. They're going to do the bits this year. And they did all right. Grosjean did. I think that was Grosjean's best season. But yeah, a lot of fond memories from Formula One in 2012 and 2013. It's very different when you're supporting a team near the front than it is to the back, I'll tell you that. This season, Grosjean finishing 11th, the Tuscan Grand Prix, that was a very proud moment. But when you're supporting a team, I suppose it's a little bit like McLaren fans at the moment. They're right on the edge of really jumping over and making that big success. And being a Grosjean fan, seeing him through the struggles and making good on some of those issues, having really good tyre preservation back in the early day and scoring some of those podiums, really special. Modern times, the two that are coming to mind, Bahrain 2014, we very rarely see a fight at the front on that level of Grand Prix racing. And also Abu Dhabi 2016, that moment of Rosberg winning the title, getting over the line, Nuppy, we did it. I'm not going to do an impression. That's never happening, ladies and gents. But that is something that really sticks out. Something that I don't think I ever quite believed Rosberg was going to be able to beat Hamilton. It took right until him crossing the line. And I was shocked. I think a lot of us were shocked. Certainly the most shocked, most emotional I've ever been was Italy this year. Only time I've ever cried in Formula One. Really hit me. And I didn't expect that. Usually, I'm jumping, I'm screaming, I'm probably a bit too loud when it comes to watching the Grand Prix, but stunned into silence with that one. So yeah, it kind of links in earlier. I really like Pierre Gasly and the story and journey he's been on. So yeah, they're I mentioned 4 or 5 there, but Spa 2015 certainly comes to mind. Ollie Benny, this is a question. What is your go-to drop in Warzone? I do like a bit of Warzone. Mr. Ollie Benny, I can't deny. I am a bit of a Call of Duty fanboy for all you out there. And I'm not one of these bandwagoners that have just jumped on the last couple of years. No, I was there through World War II. I really quite liked Infinite Warfare. Didn't like Black Ops 3. Anyway, where's my go-to drop in the Warzone? First on my list is the prison. It's got to be the prison. The carnage that goes on there. If we're landing straight away, we're dropping prison straight away. That's happening. We're getting the helicopter down at the port. If not, straight to the helicopter in the middle. We're running people over. We're up in that KD. I've got a 1.84 KD on Warzone, so if you beat me in the comments, let me know. I was going to stream a bit of that in lockdown. Never quite got round to getting a team of YouTubers together. Maybe that'll happen for the next one. For Black Ops. But yeah, it's got to be the prison. Second place, it's got to be, you know, Mr. Ollie Benny, the Superstore. Anything ridiculously crazy is where I'm pretty keen to go. And third on the list, I quite like Boneyard, I quite like Hills, but Quarry, I think. And a lot of good games at the Quarry. Certainly bottom of the list is Storage Town. If you don't like Call of Duty and you have no clue what we're on about, all you need to know is Prison the best, Storage Town is the worst. Anonymous, thank you for your donation. Just says you're amazing. Thank you. Joan and Rob, congrats Dan. Don't feel qualified to ask any questions, but what a brilliant idea. Thank you guys. Anonymous, well done Dan, really proud. That's a £10. Thank you Anonymous. Katie again, I think this is a different Katie, another one. I'm not qualified to ask any questions. Thanks for your content. It's a great cause. £10. Thank you. Anonymous, another £10. Thank you. Anonymous again with a £10. But I know who this is, and it's actually our final question. Daniel Hurst also sent in another £10. People just went in on the £10 on the last day of questions yesterday. Daniel Hurst says, congratulations on 50,000 subscribers. Thoroughly deserved it. And what a lovely way of celebrating it. Thank you, Daniel. Of course, donations still up until Sunday. £2 and you're in for the raffle. I think £2 is the minimum. But that would be fantastic. If we could spam a few of those in the final couple of days, that would be magical. We're already way over our target, and don't worry if you can't, but any donations, how big or how small, will be in the raffle, and that will be announced the winner on Monday probably, because I'll give it until Sunday 12 o'clock in the evening to get all of the donations in. But our final question comes from Anonymous, but I know who it is. It's Mr. Groping Disc. If you don't know who Groping Disc is, William himself, a big celebrity on the channel during lockdown, during our F1E, I can't remember what we called it now, Open Lobby Championship. We did 20 of them in the end. Groping Disc, not the best name, it's his gamer tag, it's the default one, but a big story around him being the worst, getting better. So thank you very much for your question, dude. Do you think Formula One has a long-term future in terms of sustainability? The rise of electric cars and the drama surrounding the new Brazil track being key signs they have different ideas. Thank you, dude, for your question. And again, thank you to all 53 of you so far that have donated. The link is in the top line of the description if you want to donate. But do I think it has a long-term future in terms of sustainability? Yes. No, it's not on the levels of Formula E. Will it ever get on the levels of Formula E? Probably not, unless there's some kind of merger or something like that. But I strongly believe Formula One will always be the pinnacle of motorsport. I think they're aware of the changing times. The fact they changed to a hybrid engine back in 2014 against all the status quo, I think, is proof that they are willing to make these sacrifices if they're needed. Brazil, you're right, is not a step in the right direction. However, that's not really, and I know this is something that, you know, a lot of people are unsure about. I don't think that's a Formula One problem. I think that's just a general Brazil being a country that's poorly run is what I'll go with. I haven't done a lot of research into Brazil, but I'm sure there's better things they can be spending their money on. And I can't remember who it was, but someone put up a fantastic plan, fantastic idea of building that track at the old Olympic Park venue. So if Formula One went there, then I think that's a Formula One problem, but there's no current plans to do that. But I think Formula One's not silly. They know times are changing. They know it's a sport which isn't great for sustainability and the environment, and I'm sure things will start to change. Formula E, despite the fact they fly all over the world, despite the fact they still have to use planes, they have to use boats to ship different parts of the cars and vehicles, it is a carbon neutral sport. And I think that is a target for Formula One. It won't be as quick as Formula E, but it's certainly something I think they can start to work on. Wouldn't surprise me if there's another version, another generation of the hybrid power unit over the next few years, maybe in 4 or 5 years' time. Will it go electric? I think probably, but I think they'll be fine. I don't think Formula One's going anywhere.
And that about wraps it up. What's the time? How long have we been going? An hour and a quarter. Not bad. Thank you all for your donations. Thank you all so much for your questions. I've really enjoyed this. I hope this isn't the last time we do a charity Q&A, but also I've quite enjoyed just sitting down and doing a long form Q&A. So this might be something we do more often, maybe every 10 or so mailboxes. I'm not sure. We'll play it by here. But certainly this has been an incredible year for the channel, an incredible year for the content, for myself, hopefully for you guys. I'm loving Formula 1 at the moment, and I don't think that'll ever change. But thank you all so much for 50,000 subscribers. Again, if you want to be part of that raffle, you've got until Sunday to donate. But I think I'll leave that there. Thank you guys so much for your support. Sending love to all of you, and I hope to see you all in the next one.